Hey, what's up guys? So I want to talk about chain burn, any burn decks in general, Exodia and Final Countdown. And I kind of want to just talk about the decks because, I mean, sure, they have topped. I mean, all these decks have topped. The thing is, with these decks, you're essentially not playing against your opponent. You're kind of playing solitaire and hoping, things pan out. Most of these times in these decks, in games 2 and 3, your opponent will side deck really hard against you, and a Royal Decree against like Final Countdown or Chain Burn, if you don't have an answer immediately, you will lose the game. And, there isn't a rule that says you cannot play Chain Burn, although a lot of players will kind of look down upon you if you are playing these decks, and there's a reason for it. And the thing is, you won't really learn from the game. Now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game, sure, it is kind of slightly based on luck, because, you never know what you're going to draw, and your opponent can just simply draw better than you. And the thing is, you won't really learn from the game by playing these decks, because, again, you're not playing around what your opponent has on the field. You don't care how much back row they have. You don't care. Usually you won't care what monster they have on the field, unless it's like Prime Material Dragon and you're playing Chain Burn, then hey, you basically lost. But that said, you're not playing around your opponent. You're not taking all these things into consideration, like how many cards do they have in their hand, how many back row do they have, what can they do next move. You're just activating all the cards you can as fast as you can in order to get the win, and that's why a lot of players will look down upon you. Now, a lot of players early on in the game, they'll check out Burn because they think that, they can just win. And sometimes, they get a win or two. I mean, let's be honest, we've seen a lot of players play, like, Draining Shield, Magical Cylinder, and I think those are maybe just popular from the show. But, I mean, they try with their Dark Magician decks, and, like, it doesn't really win, so they go to Burn, and, once in a while they'll get a win, and then they feel like, oh, that's a good deck. But it really isn't a good deck, because in a real tournament, I mean, sure, these decks have topped, but how consistently have they been topping? And you look at that compared to, most other decks, you gotta, look at your opponent's back row, you gotta, ask how many cards that they have in their hand. And I really do encourage you players that are playing Exodia, Chain Burn, all these kind of gimmicky decks where they don't attack for the win, or Final, but no one really played Destiny Board. I'll show you guys this card. Actually, I don't think anyone has actually even played it. Is it Final? Or is it called Destiny Board? Yeah, so like you spell out Destiny and you win. This one's way too conditional. It's not gonna really work. Oh, it's actually Death in here, but it actually is Final. It spells out Final in the TCG, but in the OCG it spells out Death, and that would actually get you victory. And I think if you spell out incorrectly, like you don't spell the word right, you actually lose the game, which is hilarious. Or you just don't get the win. But that said, I mean, most of these decks, they're pretty much similar. I mean, you're not playing against your opponent, and it really defeats the purpose of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is about fun, and I mean, I even have fun when I lose sometimes, because, I mean, you really get to have a fun game, and you get to, be like, wow, I didn't see that, now I learned something. And with these decks, you won't really experience that in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I really do encourage you players that are playing Exodia, Final Countdown, Chain Burn. I mean, if you're playing it once just for fun, I mean, hey, I'll admit, I was playing, like, Blue Eyes Exodia. I think I've tried Chain Burn once. I think I've probably tried Final Countdown. They're not fun for me to play, but I just played it because, I just want to try it out. Hey, that's totally cool. But I will really suggest you players that were playing these decks, don't play them over and over, because they really won't show you the mechanics of the game. You won't really learn anything out of these decks. You'll learn very, very minor things. You won't really learn things in the long run to really improve how fun Yu-Gi-Oh! Can really be, as well as, your skill in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I really do encourage you guys to, check out my deck profiles, check out other YouTubers' deck profiles. It doesn't have to be the toppest of tier decks. You can take a really high-rated deck, take out some cards that you're not familiar with or you don't feel comfortable with running, and play some of the cards that you enjoy. And that said, just see what works. And if you're losing with that, look at what cards you have in your hand and say, maybe, okay, this card's not working, maybe I should take this out. Every time I lose, I always have these two cards in my hand. Maybe these two cards, they just don't work in my deck. But that said, I really do encourage you players that are playing these decks that are kind of a gimmicky deck. They're more like Solitaire than really Yu-Gi-Oh! And, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a two-player game, not let me draw as fast as I can, and then, or just let me activate everything on your turn as soon as your turn starts and just win. It's not really about that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is more fun and more enjoyable when you essentially get to, see what your opponent has, traps, taking damage, all that good stuff. It's fun and it is enjoyable. But I guess if you do have fun going with Chain Burn or Exodia, hey, that's that's your game, not mine. But you really will not grow as a player, and I do encourage you guys to check out other decks. You'll have more fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and other people won't make fun of you, because let's be honest. When's the last time you really saw a Exodia player or playing Chainburn like consistently and getting a pat on the back? Usually they're looked down upon, and there is a reason why. It's because you're not really playing against your opponent, like I've mentioned like several times. It's just not as enjoyable. But I hope this does encourage you players that are playing these decks to just kind of branch out. See that Yu-Gi-Oh is a fun game. You can win. There's a lot of things you can learn. There's a learning curve to Yu-Gi-Oh, and you gotta kind of experience it. And we all had to start somewhere, right? I started out playing Burn when I was playing on like the PSP. I played a Burn deck, and it was pretty good. Until you played against Lightstorm, that was like 100% loss. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Again, I encourage some of you Burn players or Exodia or Final Countdown players, or the one person maybe that is playing Destiny Void, to just play Yu-Gi-Oh the way it's kind of more meant to be played. But anyways, thanks for watching, and Agents Dragon signing out.